Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we will be creating the login page. So let's jump into it. So this is what we had created in our previous video. We will be creating the login page, but before that, let me show you one thing. We will create a button, name it as login and save it. You can see the button. It doesn't look good at all. Now we can write CSS to make this button look better. But rather than wasting time in writing CSS, we will be using a library, a UI framework, which will be bootstrapping all the buttons and other things that we require. So the UI framework that we will be using for our project is Evergreen. To install or to see the components given by Evergreen UI library, just head to their website evergreen.segment.com and browse components. They have a bunch of components and it's a very small library. Rather than using a big library, we will use the small library so that our code doesn't get bloated. So you can see the button. This is how their button looks. So to use this, all we need to do is go to our terminal and call npm install dash dash save evergreen UI. Now why do we use save? You can see as it is a dependency in our project, and once we call npm install when the other person uses the package.json, we want his system to have all the dependencies that we had. So for that, we need to save all the external libraries that we install into our dependencies object. So rather than manually inserting, we just type dash dash save and it will automatically insert the given version also. So let it install, and once it installs, you can see the UI library being added to the dependency. So you can see it has been added. Let's clear this up, close this, and now we can use the button. Rather than it being a small, as it's a component, it will be a capital button. So you can see we already are getting the intelligence saying that auto imported from Evergreen UI. Yes, we want the Evergreen UI button, and we'll say login. Go to this and let it reload. So you can see the difference between the button that is given by HTML and the button that is given by Evergreen UI. There's a huge difference, and the other one looks much cleaner and nicer. We have customization option also. So if you want to change its intent or appearance, we can say appearance and make it primary. Save it, and you can see the color changes to primary. We can increase the size also, say size is equals to, we'll just give some 70, save it, and you can see the size increased. We have other bunch of customization option also which are given here. We will be using them with time in the further lectures. So we will be using Evergreen in our project for easing out the effort, but we will be writing some CSS for customization according to what we require. Let's start by creating a login component. As I told in previous video, everything in React is a component, and I'll explain what a component is. There are two types of component, a functional component which we can see right here, or a class component which we will be creating. A login will be a class component. So there are quite a few differences between class component and functional component. So the major difference being class component, uh, prior to React 16, functional you could not declare states in functional component. But they introduced React hooks, you can now create a state in a functional component. But previously, state was only specific to a class component. So if you needed any state, you had to create a class component. But now it's not the case. So we won't be considering that part as that's a higher level concept. We will be keeping it simple by creating class components and having states in those class components only. So first thing is that all our components will be in a separate folder called components. So we'll go ahead and create a new folder, name it components, and you can see the folder directory icon changes. As it recognizes, it's a React component. So we'll create a new file and call it login.jsx. So this is the React file which allows you to create all those uh, which will have all the logic. So you can actually download an extension. So that's called React Snippets. Yeah. So this one, yeah, ES6 React Snippets. So go ahead, install this library because it will be very helpful. It'll allow you to write all the boilerplate code with just 3 words. So if I want a class component, all I need to do is RCE and hit enter. So it will create a class component boilerplate for me. Go ahead and remove this export as we already have a default export down here, and we'll save it. So now we can see we have created a component, very basic component. This is a class component which extends a component from React library. So here we can say h1 login component. Save it. And if you did not understand what this button is, because you are used to writing these types of button, so this is a component. Now, if we want to use this login component anywhere, all we need to do is import that login component like this. And it'll import that component from the component library. And we can just write it like this. So this creates a component. We'll save it and you can see a login component is there. Now, we will just create a login component, remove this for now, and let's save it. And you can see it displays the login component. So the first thing that we need is a div. We are already inside a div. So let's say div, this will contain the major part. So we'll create a assets folder, which will have all our assets. In this, we'll create a new folder called CSS, as CSS is also an asset. Save it, move it to there. Index also will move it there. And let's see if it changed. Nope, it's still the same. So let's do it ourselves. Sets slash CSS. Save it. Save this one and index as well. Dot asset slash CSS. So I think it should work. Resolve. Okay, sorry. So it's dot slash and dot slash. Let's see. Yes. So we have made our basic directory structure. Any more assets that you will have, say images or vectors or any other thing, that all will be in your asset folder because these are our assets. So the next thing that we need to do is define CSS for this. So as you know, React is a single page application. That means everything that you see is a single application, is a single page rather than being separate pages if you're coming from HTML background. You might create different pages or different components, but in the end, when the app is rendered, it is all a one single big file. And the best part is if you have imported CSS in your root folder where you're calling this API, this is also called an API because you can pass props like these. So you are calling login here, you do not need to import any CSS here. You can just define the CSS inside this app.css and use it here. So that is the beauty of React. Everything is a single page because in the end, once you have written this login, it will just copy paste this whole code inside this div. So in short, it's a single page application, but React gives you a feel of developing as a multiple page application. So we'll open the app.css. Now we'll remove this. We'll remove .app itself. Save it. Remove this. So now what we need is a container. So this will be our container. Class name is equals to login container. Save it. Dot login container, and we'll say display flex, and inside this display flex, first we'll define the height and width. Height will be around 50% and width will be around 50%, no, not 50%, say 30%, and the margin will be auto. Let's put a background color. Let's put this just to see how it looks. So it did not display anything. Okay, we'll create. By default, everything is wrap content in the uh, HTML world. I don't know why that is the case. We'll just say height 100 VH and class name is equals to app or small. Yeah, app. Let's see. It still didn't show. Login. Yep, that is the error. That's what I said. It's everything is. Uh, so we need to define it in a pixel way, 500 pixel. So now you can see it's there. This is a very big issue with the HTML that I find is that it doesn't work, percentage doesn't work most of the times because it's all wrap content basically, so it wraps around the content. That's one big issue, so can't help it. Now let's give it a top margin top of 30%. Let's see again the same. Okay, so this will be after this 30%. Let's save it. That's too much. 10%. Yep, this is fine. So here this will contain a login data. So let's leave it. Let's just leave it at it. So the first thing that we need is text field. So we can go to, if you have any doubt, so you can just go to evergreen.segment UI. See, we have a search input, text input, tag input. What we need is a text input. So all we need is a very simple text input. So you can have a text input field also, which gives you many options. So we will be using text input field. Let's just, no need to copy because it'll anyway show everything. Input field. So it'll auto import also. Remove this, close it here. And for that we need an, not this, need an h1 tag. Okay, not h1, h2 tag. Say login, save it, see how it looks. Yeah, so it looks ugly. No worries, we'll make it beautiful. So display flex, flex direction will be column, and align items will be center, justify content will be space around. So yep, it looks much better. Now, or just leave space around, we'll give space according to how we need it. So this is fine. Next, uh, rather than writing login, we'll say enter credentials. Yep, enter credentials. We will be changing the font and all those things later on. So text input field, you can see what all options we have. So you can see if you want a label, you can just say label in this label, and we'll say username, and there'll be a placeholder. Example, John Doe. Save it, and you can see, yeah, we got a username. Now there will be something for our width also. So yep, input width, or if you want to search for all those things, you can just say control space and all the options will come. So we'll go for size, see what happens. uh, do we have any options for this? Nope. So we'll just say uh, 40. What happens with this? Nothing much. So let's say input width to say 100 pixels. So it, yeah, so this works. 300 pixel. Yep, this works. This much is enough. Now let's just copy paste this rather than username. Now we need password, and there'll be some hiso yam at the rate 123. And also we need to specify the type. Input type, I think. Disabled hint is valid. Required width. Okay. How do we define a password field? Mm, do, 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 do. I think it's type is equals to password, and here the type will be text. I think this is the one. So let's try it out. Yes, this works, and this also works. Correct. Now we need ID so that we can reference them later on. So our ID will be user, okay, login user name, and copy this, paste it here. This will be login password, as we'll have a sign up username and password also, so we don't want to get confused with those. So let's keep it as differentiable as possible. Then we need a button, and the button name will be log in. Make it a little fancy if you want to save it. So you have a button, don't like it, change the appearance, make it primary. This is fine. What all parameters are there? Is loading. So there's a size thing option also. Let's just check what the size options are. Open the button. See, we have our, yep, size is here. So we say height. Okay, height equal to, which one is fine? I think 40 is decent enough. 40, save it. And yes, 40 is decent enough. Now we'll give a proper color, background color, and that we will be using from colors in library, this evergreen. So I really like this color. We'll put this color as our background. You can see, oh, this is too dark. Yeah, this one, there's one lighter version also. Let's just search for that. Yeah, tint 2. Yeah, this is the one that I like. Save it. And this looks really good for the background. Now let's just give padding, a padding of say 10%, not from top. Padding top is 10%. Okay, this is too much. Height we can reduce to 300. No, 500. Padding, let's just give it some 50 pixel. Save it, and this is fine. Reduce the size as well, height. Reduce the width as well, 20. 20 is too small, make it 25. Yes, this looks nice. Give it a border radius. Border radius of some 10 pixels. Yes, this much curve is fine. And yeah, this looks decent enough. Let's reduce the height even more. 300 is too small. 350. 350 looks decent enough. So yeah, let's leave. This video is getting longer, so let's just cut it here. So that's it for this video. See you in the next one.